let's move to the panel and then just reflect briefly what we learned during these actually supposed to be 4 hours, but which turned now into already 4.5 hours. So maybe Alex, Gautam, and Ozer, can you switch on your cameras, and then we just...
Yes, I have switch on. Is it okay?
Yeah, super. Okay. Alex still in? Alex? Did we lose him? Let me just check. No, Alex? Michael, do you still have time? I'm talking to Michael Vassakis. Do you have still 10 minutes?
I'll stick around until the end of the presentation. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, no, if you can actually participate in the panel, because I wanted to have actually the developers speak, not the producers. So if you have time actually to join the panel for 10-15 minutes, that would be cool.
I can definitely do that. I don't have anything prepared in terms of the agenda of the, but that's absolutely fine. We can
it's fine.
have a conversation.
I just wanted to start with a brief pulse. So I think Alexander addressed many of the challenges in his presentations this morning. So when we talk about the biggest challenges for developers, EPCs, O&M companies, asset managers, what are the top three you are, or in which part of this life cycle of a solar plant you see the biggest challenge today for a company, a developer who's active all along the value chain? Maybe I think Ozer, you want to start, and then Gautam, and then Michael, so that he can listen a little bit, because I think he joined later.
Yeah, what I can tell in development front, of course, permitting is number one, right? And even if you have the funds ready, your material ready, your service are ready, without permitting, you cannot start, right? You cannot get I think number one. And then also the changing the conjecture, right? I mean, the money is more expensive, and your selling price is lower PPAs. Doesn't make the math, right? And CapEx helping, but there are two other headwinds. And the uncertainty, right? I mean, I think number three, about you can call it transparency, you can call it collaboration, but I think this is the right moment, right? I mean, yeah, if I recap permitting, and the one thing, and second thing is that there's no balance in the market in terms of the PPA, in terms of cost of money, in terms of CapEx, and last but not least, the supply chain transparency.
Okay. Gautam, maybe you, also from your Indian perspective.
Yeah, Indian perspective. So what we had seen that the land acquisitions is one of the biggest challenge, in a sense, like there are a different mode, like mostly on the lease mode that we are working, or any other developers are working, but the land availability, and there are a lot of scrutiny, a lot of time taking process, right? So land is number one. Number two is that there are a little constraint now because of the government policies, in a sense, like earlier ALMM and the other things was there, right? Okay, which is importing modules, but now though there is a 60 gigawatt, kind of a module available in India, right? Okay, but the sale has to come from China, so there is a the duty on the cell, it is there as well. So and also the volume production that we need. So far we have installed 75 gigawatt, and our target is something like in the solar 280 or closer to 300. So we have already 7 years in hand. So at the rate, like what we need to have, like 30 gigawatt installations, so which are not happening. Like if you look at this financial year, 2023-24, we have installed only 15 gigawatt. And the other thing is that a little bit on the connectivity issues on the different, discom areas, different states, these are the three major areas, like, according to me, right? Okay.
Okay, thanks. Michael?
I think I can't really speak of our development team fully here, but as I've experienced the development of our projects in the UK, one of the biggest hurdles is the grid capacity, getting the grid connections, not just getting the offers and being able to accept grid, and sometimes they can be quite pricey depending on what someone submits. But also the time frame of getting the grid to a mature stage whereby someone, a developer, EPC, can go in, secure land rights, secure the legal agreements, secure everything, and deliver the project, knowing that we're going to be acting now for something that's likely to be connected 2.5 years down the line. So do you actually wait for the grid to be ready before you actually go through your what normally should be more advanced stages of the EPC, or do you do a lot of that upfront investing so that you can progress with the project through its stages in hope that the grid will land? So there is a little bit of a kind of a catch-22 situation that we find ourselves against. And there is a lot of effort that goes into the development of projects. And if the grid doesn't land in the right time when you expect it and with no delays, it can be quite devastating for a business which is working towards delivering concurrently a number of projects. So I would say that grid kind of development cycle as part of the projects is at least one which we have experienced as a substantial challenge. And what we tend to do to overcome this is come up with strategies or multiple phases of a project, which is not what you ideally want to do. You don't want to start a project with kind of delivering a phase A or to the project, as in, capitalize on as much as you can based on the capability of the grid at any given time, and thereafter redesign the project for a phase B. So effectively, just deliver pretty much two projects on one project because you are grid constraint limited, let's say. So we find strategies of keeping deployment going, but it adds complexity. The fact that sometimes we need to adjust to the constraints that are enforced upon us by the limitations in terms of how quickly the DNOs can, or rather DSOs can move in the UK market. And we probably don't have it the worst, because when you go to some of the other European markets, it's even it's even more difficult to actually unlock capacity on the existing networks. And that's where flexibility of the assets matters, being able to provide different type of services so that you can help solve at the same time of generating clean energy. You can help solve a problem, at the same time of generating clean energy.
Okay, interesting. So let's maybe start with permitting. Of course, permitting is different in different markets, and you're all more or less active in different markets. But maybe start with Europe, Ozer. So I think so in Europe, theoretically, permitting should be solved during the energy crisis. We had emergency measures actually, and the Commission came out quickly with some recommendations, and actually that turned into law. How permitting can be reduced, permitting times can be simplified. That was also then, but later extended in the directive. The question is, how is the reality today? Because of course the EU has 27 markets, that also has then to be transposed into national law. So what are we experiencing on the permitting side in Europe these days?
Yeah, there are some incentives to accelerate the process and putting a fast track. But in the end, the permitting process handled by the same people, right? And the bureaucracy. And I don't really see that there's a sense of urgency is there, one thing. Second thing is that, especially in Europe, land has limitations, right? And I'm looking at the Netherlands, right? We have a very small country, and for bigger projects, and you are stepping in maybe urban areas or protected areas, and getting permits is becoming more and more difficult. And so I see some intentions, but as developer, we don't see a kind of acceleration.
Okay. How that in the UK, India, permitting a big issue or not so much at the moment, Michael, Gautam?
Yes, can you repeat, Michael? Right, sorry, I was...
Permitting, actually, how much of an issue is that in India at the moment for solar power plants?
Okay, permissions issues, I mean, related to the, the government policies you are asking or something like that,
I think so. How much do you suffer, I think, as a developer in that phase? Because in Europe, it can take still several years, although everything is clear, but to get all the different permits in order to get going and start the project.
Yes, in India, as I told you, it needs to be, particularly the government policies, in such a way, say, for example, as a developers, and we have won the project, and there is a more than 60 gigawatt project which has been bidded in the pipeline. Therefore, if you look in terms of the installations, what we are doing today, we can't achieve the target like 280 or 300 gigawatt, right? So therefore, what I believe that earlier there was a safeguard duty, and then later on the BCD, and now even the BCD on the module side I'm talking, but cell side it is yes. But on the ALMM side, it needs to be revisit in a sense like, I need to check in a sense, what is the availability of the Indian manufacturers with the high capacity, higher wattage of the module, which are close to, though it is theoretically 60%, but yes, capacity utilizations may not be that high, 30 gigawatt or so, right? Okay. So what I believe that ALLM should be permitted, for even some of the Chinese manufacturers so that we can import. And on a year-on basis, say, for example, initially 31st till 31st March, it was like 40% on the module, but it can be done in such a way, say, for example, every year there will be an increasing, BCD in a sense, like, from 40 to 50, 50 to 60, like that, right? 60, 70, 80. And in the meantime, the domestic manufacturing will also pick up, right from the module level is fine, but it needs to be on the cell level as well. So the government has already launched the PLI program, both the things 1 and 2, and both the things are lacking, in a sense, like we are not in a position to deliver, like our own cell or ingot or the modules, right? So therefore, it need to revisit, and restructures in such a way so that as a developer, we don't suffer, and we have a timeline and where we can install our project with the stipulated time as per the PPA, right? So that's things according to me, in the Indian context, right?
Let's talk also maybe on ESG. Actually, I think it's higher and higher on the agenda of investors. There's also government directives, laws, frameworks. It's about product sourcing. It's about forced labor. So how do you as companies actually look at it, and how are you handling that topics when you develop products? Maybe Ozer first, because you have been also instrumental in developing the Solar Stewardship Initiative in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the presentation, it's becoming really a kind of go no go decision. That is a kind of non-price the criteria. It is not only for greenfield projects, but also during the acquisition of a brownfield project, the party is asking what is the source of this panel. I mean, panel installed maybe 5 years ago. So it is impossible to trace it back. But at this point, we are looking into the manufacturer. What is the intention of manufacturer? What is the strategy? They are really committing, and they are just trying to check the box, or they have a solid plan. So in an area, in an environment of uncertainty, you need some data points you can tip, you can make your decision, right? And you can rely on this single piece of information. So this is what's happening, and there was a very good opportunity in the last year, and very cheap modules, and we are sitting in the Rotterdam warehouse, but they were not traceable. I mean, I had the project to buy a small amount, but due to this the lack of transparency, we could not. So what I'm trying to say is the transparency is becoming real value, right? It is not the price anymore. So that's why we put together the Solar Stewardship Initiative just to create a kind of benchmark. It will give a kind of comparison opportunity for the buyers. Right? We are putting cost, performance, etc. But what about the ESG score of the same? Because everybody will be measured against the same questionnaire, and we will see the heat map. So which manufacturer has the issue with the traceability, which manufacturer has the issue with the carbon footprint, because not everybody using same source of energy. So this will provide a kind of the scale, so that we can easily benchmark as buyers the different alternatives. Well, this is what I can tell. So
and this is what you will do then for all products of a solar system. It's not only the module, but you will look also into the mounting, and you will look into the inverters, and you will look into everything.
This is a risk-based approach, right? I mean, we are making our risk assessment. We see that solar module has the highest risk, right, for the time being due to different reasons. Of course, this will follow the other the components based on the risk we identify. The next one, I can tell the batteries, right? The batteries will come, and the aluminum will come, right? I mean, again, but this depends on the when you perform the risk assessment. So it will not be limited to the solar modules for
sure. Okay. Maybe Michael, Gautam. So
yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I think as any other business, we have a zero tolerance position in this. As in, if we can't trace it back, we're not procuring from whichever supplier we can't trace from. Period. So luckily, we're not looking at old stock. Luckily, every project that we're going to be looking is going to be made based on latest technology, which is likely to come out of direct procurement from the factories for large scale projects. And it's very well known with the people that we work with that there is a process which allows us to hopefully trace back to the source of raw material. That's the expectation. People know it, so people, our suppliers tend to want to deliver to our requirements. So when we open conversation with our supply chain, we put this forward as an absolute minimum requirement for our business in order to actually get to a point where we do work together. So we've worked by introducing a procurement process that sees that that traceability be a go no go decision, similarly to how Ozer put it. And we have an obligation to do it also in line with our ISO 9001 and the investors who are actually supporting the deployment of these projects, right? So we secure or validate the traceability by allowing people to go out to the factories and from the UK to China and work towards tracing historically, making sure that all of the records are in place from the manufacturers on how they have procured their raw materials, ignites, and so on. So we can only manage it through process, but we can't from our side also not trust that the suppliers are taking the right and following the right traceability paths themselves in order to deliver to our requests. We have third-party partners in the industry who based in China who help us support the validation of this process. And it stands for PV modules as well as lithium batteries, whereby the source of lithium is not substantially different than how silicon is sourced. You can't necessarily say I'm in this line of business talking about net zero and only focus on PV modules because that's what everyone's looking at, and forgetting about the fact that there is an emerging market around energy storage, which goes through the same trajectory that the PV industry experienced 10 years ago. So in a way, energy storage is kind of 10 years behind what we have experienced in the solar industry. So this is also becoming a talking issue for source of materials for lithium batteries and as well as other procured elements of our projects.
Okay. Gautam, is this a topic in India actually also?
Yes, because our company is from the Singapore, so we have also in the process of implementing ESG in the corporate level and then in the plant level as well, right? So in my presentation, I have shown you, a couple of things like on the environmental side, it is fine, but the raw material resourcing at the, the different, the facilities, what we do, actually, we do the kind of a due diligence, where is the source, how we're getting the traceability, those materials, right? Okay. And we are also complying to the, to the PPA signs when there are 4 R's, that means reduced, recycle, refurbish, reuse, this kind of a concept. And even we are also concerned not only the solar modules, which are there, but also the other component. So the next subject is coming like dismantling of the power plant, even after the, after the PPA is signed after 25 years and so, right? Okay. And also there was a concept like, repowering of the whole power plant, right? These are the things. But yes, from the social point of view, what we are doing actually, say from the O&M side, we are deploying the manpower locally, so that, post installations or during installations, we are employing the power, manpower over there. And then finally on the governance science, yes, we are also complying the other rules and regulations at the state level as well as on the central level, so that kind of things, it's still in the process, and we are doing that one. And particularly the idea is that, the green energy, how to use the green energy and with the kind of a concept, so those are the, the initial, it is the initial phase, but yes, I believe it will take a couple of years and it will be matured even in the MNRE as well as the Ministry of the Environment. They are working together to come up with this kind of the process.
Okay, thanks. Maybe a final question. So, so when we look at the utility scale market, so last year, according to Bloomberg, 444 gigawatt was installed. And if you look at China alone was 260 gigawatt of that. And even in a country like China, of this 260 gigawatt, over 100 gigawatt was rooftop. So the rooftop market was almost close to 50% in China, let's say 40 or so. In Europe, actually, 2/3 of the systems were rooftop systems that were installed last year. So where are the opportunities for the ground mount segment actually to speed up development? I think the Indian case is a bit different, but where where you are active, Michael, Ozer, so how can we actually grasp some opportunities to speed up the development of utility scale? Simply, we need it. That's the lowest cost option we have. We look about the energy transition, and so that's where we also have to speed up.
Yeah,
Right.
assuming that permitting is solved and PPA is back to normal level, right? And I see that construction capacity will be a kind of bottleneck going forward. Everybody has their the backlogs of pipelines. I mean, then some double count duplication in the backlog because I see my projects in my pipeline. Some other developers are the same. Assuming that they're all consolidated. Unfortunately, there's no workforce and nobody interested in working in construction anymore in Europe, right? I mean, that's why we are importing some foreign labor, but this will not be enough, right? I mean, if you really have this in the backlog and projects are ready to build, there will not be enough capacity to build those. So what you can do? I mean, you can increase workforce. It's not that easy, or you can increase your efficiency of mounting the panels. I mean. So I think lean construction, it is very good concept, has been in practice in the US for a long time, but I don't see the adaptation in Europe, right? I mean, so those and new force should be trained by this. I mean, we should attract new generation into this business. I mean, because if you look at the average age of the construction workers, it's 45 and they're going to 50. I mean, there's no new generation coming in the same business. And this is, I think, the main challenge and the main opportunity. And for the time being, there's an abundance in the market for the capacities. It's not like 2 years ago. It will continue like this because we already want the terawatt of module capacity installed. And again, assuming that permitting and the sustainability issues are solved, I think next challenge will be the construction capacity.
Okay, Michael?
I'm going to agree on the fact that construction capacity is becoming a problem at least in the European markets. I think we're experiencing this ourselves. When we compare residential PV or kind of private small projects, whether it's for business or houses, to ground mount projects, I think there is one thing that we need to take into consideration. The demand of electricity increases and will still it will still become the trajectory for the following years, on the basis that we, even as consumers, we change the way that we act and that we use electricity. We now have electric vehicles a lot more. A lot of us charge at home. We transition our heating from gas to heat pumps. So and there are a lot more. We transition our cooking from gas to induction. So there is a big shift towards electrification as a general rule. And that means that the demand is only likely to go up. And there are projections about what the demand is likely to be that people can have a look at. And there is an outlook from DNVGL who published an energy transition outlook. They publish it, I think, annually, and people can get a lot of insight from that. And so on the basis that demand goes up, on the basis that we have a lot of manufacturing capability because of all of the kind of capacities that are being capacity lines which are continuously spinning out more and more modules, on the basis that the technology gets improved. So we see efficiencies go up in PV modules by healthy increments in percentages. The PV sector is very likely going to have a great future ahead of it. And when we compare solar on residential and solar on ground mounts, there's a big differentiating factor. You can't achieve the cost of electricity that you can achieve on a ground mount when you deliver solar on your rooftop. I think everyone will agree to that. So the mix of generation is going to find a balance between solar on a residential level, but equally ground mount projects in large scale is going to continue to be an area of great interest. So the blocker of construction teams being available is indeed a real one. We see less and less EPC companies operating in the sector, unfortunately, and that kind of puts a burden into the industry as a whole. So that's at least from kind of my lens.
Maybe, but as a final, but in the midterm, probably the biggest challenge and opportunity is probably flexibility, right? Because we see in Spain solar capture rates going down. Actually, curtailment is going up. So that means we have to fix that, and the solution to that are probably hybrid plants, round the clock solar power, like they call it in India. And so isn't that maybe if we look at 2030, 2040, the biggest challenge and also opportunity for the solar sector to capture larger shares?
Yes, Michael, I want to share something. So for example, the utility scale where India has the major market share, and then the rooftop program in India started in 2015 onwards. Is not much has been done in excess of maybe 6 to 7 gigawatt. But the new sector is coming, which is called the CNI sector, which is captive and the group captive. In a sense, like that there is an industry where the power, the conventional power are very, the costs are very high. So therefore, they are going for a kind of a group captive, the installations. And then in both the configurations, not only solar, but it's a hybrid mode, right? Okay. And now the new bids are coming. Both the things is a hybrid as well as with the storage, right? Now there are two different configurations, like with the storage, like whether it's a battery, like we have won several projects with the battery storage as well, right? That the future will be either pump hydro, right? Depending on the locations. But yes, it takes a little more time to set up, this kind of a facility with the pump hydro, like Greenco, what they are doing today, right? So on the installation side, yes, 2024, as we can't import, so the domestic manufacturing what we have is a little challenge, but 2005 or 25 onwards, there will be a huge capacity domestic manufacturing. Probably that 5 gigawatt the Reliance is setting up, the Tata has already set up 4 gigawatt fab on the solar module, and they're coming with the back-to-back with the solar cells. Adani has 4 gigawatt, and then like that, Wari has got more than 10 gigawatt, Vikram, MB Solar, so like that. So what I want to say, maybe 2025 or 26 onwards, like the run rate, like 25 gigawatt kind of installations with the different configurations, like hybrid as well. There are a lot of these things, wind, turbine. We are also doing a lot of wind project as well. And then storage size, yes, depending on the, kind of a PPA, and we are also working on that, but that will come after 2 years. But definitely the cell will be bringing, from China, and will assemble the kind of a, module, for the storage systems, which is called BESS, battery energy storage systems, So that is the outlook what India is as of today, right?
Thanks. Maybe Michael, Ozer, as a final comments on flexibility.
Yeah, sure. I think if we look at the projects that we kind of presented to you, you'd realize the position that we have taken as a business. Renewable energy is key to providing zero carbon economy, zero carbon generation, and so on. But renewable is not dependable by itself. This is where solutions, energy storage solutions, whether they are hydro or whether they are in the form of different technologies come into play to provide a synergy whereby we can really decarbonize our market. So in our business, we do a lot of work around smart operation of plants, plant optimization, and combination of multiple technologies to deliver the flexibility which the industry requires. And when you bring technologies together, the complexity increases substantially. But it's very important that we get this right, because the future of renewables is very much dependent on how these can tie into the grid in order to provide a seamless integration and an equivalent experience as we have it right now, whereby we're in control of what comes on grid and what comes off at any given time by controlling CCGT plants or what have you. So flexibility plays an important role. How we have kind of cracked the flexibility piece is with lithium energy storage. However, there are a lot of technologies out there and people are kind of investing in different sources. We want to think of ourselves as technology agnostic. So if people can suggest more efficient or more effective ways of providing flexibility to the plans that we deliver, we're more than happy to take their view and do a deep dive. However, we have proven that we can have 1 hour energy storage solutions parallel connected to our projects, and that was back in 2018, 2019. We've thereafter gone to deliver long duration storage, 4.5 hour duration storage and above in the UK. That's substantial. It gives you very good control over what comes out of the plant at any given time. We are working with people who can support on how we schedule the dispatch of that energy to benefit the market, and how that ties in with other technologies, with the demand profile, with what might be output on the grid, what the output might be on the grid from wind, and how can we actually adjust in real time to benefit the grid, but also build a financial case for the projects that we deliver. So flexibility is definitely the key, Michael, going forward.
Oh, okay. Ozer, final words?
Yeah, not much to add. And to Michael and Gautam, right? I mean, but the storage is the key, right? I mean, the more electrification is increasing the energy efficiency, and we need less energy if you electrify. So this, I think, co-location is the complementary solution. I think there will be more innovation there, and we should also look into concentrated solar power for long-term storage. And I think solar is alone enough for the world, right? I mean, you don't need to look for something else. I'm not a believer of hydrogen, but yeah, I think we should focus on the kind of work with the solutions and to move forward.
Okay.
That's all from my side.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thanks to everyone. I think that was a good conclusion. So near term, fix permitting, fix EPCs, that we have enough people to install. Of course, have the right framework conditions, that all that works, and then co-locate solar and storage to address the flexibility needs in a market that goes more and more renewable. So thanks to everyone for contributing. I want to point as a first of all, then to the speakers, our team, our sponsors, and just want to point to 2 reports which we recently published. One analyzing the most efficient solar modules. We're tracking that every month on our website, commercial solar modules with the highest efficiencies. And then we just launched last week a report on bifacial solar systems with a couple of interesting case studies. And I just wanted to point to our next event, which will take place in a month from now, that we will move up a little bit the value chain, and we look into cell and module prediction, production equipment, and processing materials. I know we have overcapacities. Nevertheless, the big companies are still expanding. There's also the topic of energy security. Chinese companies are moving abroad, local companies are coming up to set up production, and all of them need the latest production equipment and processing materials in order to be competitive. So we will have a 2-day event where we will look at both cell and module production equipment and processing materials. That's it from my side. Thanks to everyone. Have a nice afternoon or evening. Goodbye.
But thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.